Warning, this video contains flashing images and rapid color changes which may not be suitable for people with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, you heard it here folks, ritual decks are actually bad for your health. Let the madness begin. Hi everyone, YuGiOh here, back again with another YuGiOh Forbidden Memories single type challenge. Last run we were able to beat the game not once, but twice using two different insect decks, so let's go ahead and tick those off the list. Now, a number of you were suggesting that I do a run with ritual monsters only. Whether this was a genuine request or just straight trolling, I'm calling out all your bluffs on this one, so let's give a quick recap on how this mechanic works. Ritual summoning is a relatively unused mechanic in Forbidden Memories. There are a total of 24 ritual monsters in the game. 3 are available to the player as early as the starting deck, 16 can be accessed as the story progresses, 4 are locked away behind the pocket station, and 1 is available in the post game. Of course, it had to be Blue Eye's Ultimate Dragon. To summon a monster via ritual, you need to activate a ritual spell card whilst you have 3 specific monsters present on your side of the field. Yes, you heard that right, the ritual materials need to be summoned to your side of the field, unlike in the TCG where you can use cards from your hand. If that wasn't enough, it is not mentioned anywhere in this godforsaken game as to what monsters are needed for each ritual summon. You had to buy the official Japanese strategy guide to learn about them, so drop some money on that one. After activating the ritual card, the 3 monsters are consumed and the stated monster is summoned to the field after the seizure procedure finishes. The difficulty of this run is being able to keep those 3 target monsters alive long enough to pull this thing off, which is why it's a challenge that is very rarely attempted. So with all that said, let's go over the rules. Our deck must only consist of monsters that are material for a ritual summon. Secondly, damage can only be dealt to an opponent with a ritual monster. Third, non-ritual monsters may be used to clear an opponent's field. This is a handicap rule I included to give ourselves a fighting chance against this run. Otherwise we're going to be overwhelmed early game with twin-headed thunder dragons. On to rule 4, opponents' mistakes are fair game. Since the AI can see everything in our hand and on our field, it's their fault if they attack into us. This also covers the suicide glitch that you saw in my dinosaur run. Moving on, the star chip trader is allowed, as well as trading and trade duplication. Lastly, the pocket station cards are permitted only as a run saver. This includes access to certain monsters as well as spell cards like Swords of Revealing Light. On to the starting deck. Our starting deck will be focused on getting out Cosmo Queen and Mask of Shine and Darkness. Any extra would just clog the deck. So, I've put things off long enough, let's jump right into things. Our first duel is against the Go-Go Crazy Bone named Simon. Now, if you thought Simon would be an easy enough opponent to get our feet wet with this ritual challenge, you'd be sadly mistaken. Simon's strongest monster is Exodia with 1000 attack, which can take out about 2 to 3 of our many ritual materials. He will also attempt to fuse into zombie monsters if you leave his summoned monsters unchecked. That's why I instigated rule 3. He does run rampant with a Pumpkin, and that's not fun for us. I've spent many hours playtesting which ritual monster I should be focusing on for this early game. Cosmo Queen seems to be the best one, not only for its raw attack power, but because Queen's Double and Princess of Tsurugi, I think I pronounced that right, share many of the same equip cards, making it a bit easier to keep them alive long enough to pull off the summon. As mentioned in Rule 1, I will only be including monsters in my deck that are material for ritual summons. Griggle is the only grass type available to us in order to bring out Queen of Autumn Leaves. Griggle is a ritual material for Hungry Burger. I'm not actually going to put a Hungry Burger in my deck, but I'm still allowed to use it because it keeps in line with my first rule. Just want to make that distinction up front so there's no confusion later on in this run. Getting back to the duel, we seem to have all the right cards needed to summon Cosmo Queen. I'm going to first summon off a Queen of Autumn Leaves, and then play Queen's Double in the next turn. The ritual card needed to summon Cosmo Queen is Cosmo Queen's Prayer. We don't actually have access to it, and we'll need to farm it from the Star Chip Trader. In order to make it, you'll need to fuse a Malevolent Nuzzler with a Cyber Shield. By the way, I've also taken your feedback on board regarding the speed of these videos. I didn't realise how many of you were weak to motion sickness, and I can sympathise. I've reduced the speed from 300% down to about 250. Hopefully that still doesn't make things too fast for you guys. Now you'll probably notice that this duel is taking a while. Nothing much I can do. I will say that things get better after I take out Simon, because I will be going back to farm Star Chips. Once I do that, I'll get access to the actual ritual cards, which will speed things up significantly. Alternatively, I can just put the video back up to 300%. We'll just see how things go. Anywho, number 1, we finally get a Malevolent Nuzzler in our hand. We can finally summon Cosmo Queen. Let's beef up our Queen's Double. I hope he doesn't take it out, because I don't trust this guy or any other AI. Alright, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Up 1, up 2, let's do a fuse. Time for the seizure procedure. And I forgot to mute my laptop. Oh boy, how satisfying it is to have something that can actually attack. It feels really good to wave around a beat stick like Cosmo Queen. I feel just like Haishin. It's a shame that this card is not available in this game as a random drop. You'd have to get it by fusing it in the pocket station. But for us, given that we're playing rituals, it's fair game. It's attack with 1, and attack with 2, and Simon finally goes down. Oh, by the way, do you want to know how many duels it took to take down Simon? Yes, that's right, 4 frickin' duels. You guys can count along at home. Take a guess after I beat every duel. See if you can guess the grand total at the end of the video. With Bluey down, we need to farm 150 start chips to get both Cosmo Queen's Prayer and Construct Mask. This took 55 duels to pull off. At about 5 minutes a duel, this was about 4.5 hours for me to get through. Getting back to the game, and having upgraded our deck, we face off against Teana. All that I really did to the deck was kick out a few equip cards that weren't necessary and replace them with the Cosmo Queen's Prayer and Construct Mask. Teana as an opponent is weaker than Simon. I use that term a bit loosely. Her strongest attacking monster in her deck is only 500 attack points, that being Shadow Spectre. As for the rest of her deck, she has the ability to pull out a Pumpkin as well, which is not ideal for us. Actually, this is exactly what she did in the Sea Serpent video when we left her monsters out on the field for too long. So it goes to show how quickly our opponents can snowball against us. You might be recognising this duel ever so slightly. This is actually the stock footage that I used for the intro video. The construct marks we pulled out in the starting description came from this duel against Teana. It was the shortest duel, at about 4 minutes, so take that what you will. Having the ritual cards in our deck speeds things up significantly. I finally drew the last mask card needed, and we can kick off the ritual for the Mask of Shine Darkness. I didn't realise that the ritual animation changed colour depending on the monster you were using. I guess how was I supposed to know that? Or anyone else for that matter? Nobody uses rituals. I guess this is their way of rewarding you for pulling off a ritual summon. Flashy lights and a nice seizure. Porygon will be proud of us. Anywho, number 2, we start chipping away at Tina's monsters. There isn't much she can actually pull out on us now that we're clearing her field bit by bit. So with that being said, there's no Raigeki for game. Instead we attack, and attack again for game. Let's take a guess at how many duels this took. First try. Go us. Off we go to Villager 1. This guy on paper isn't that much harder than Teana. His strongest monster in his deck is Muka Muka, I think I pronounced that right, being at 600 attack points. Only 100 attack points stronger than Shadow Spectre in Tina's deck. So this duel shouldn't be too bad. Keep that in the back of your mind when you guess the total number of duels at the end of this. Anywho, number 3. Villager 1 has the jar cards in his deck. Jars/pots are actually a subtype in this game, albeit they're only needed for one fusion, that being Ushi Oni. Some of you have requested that I add that to the roster, so I might do that later when I exhaust all the other types. Back to the duel. I seem to have had a pretty solid first 3 turns. We pull out Mask of Shine and Dark without too much trouble, which is great. I don't like these duels taking too long, so I'm hoping we keep this momentum as we go along. It does make a strong difference having the actual ritual cards in your deck. So there's not much to say other than to keep attacking for the win. I wonder what the villagers' names actually are. Surely they're not 1, 2 and 3. They're probably named in a later game. With our final turn drawing near, it's time to guess how many duels it took to beat Villager 1. First try. See? I didn't lie to you about him being easy. On to Villager 2. Now this kid is an absolute prick. Excuse the language. If there was an embodiment of a false sense of security, Forbidden Memories would have this kid as the face of it. The amount of times I wiped to him because of the drastic jump in monster attack power was just cruel, especially to a very young Jono. Villager 2's strongest card in his deck is YuGiOh. Yes, you heard that correctly, 2200 attack YuGiOh. As for the rest of his cards, they average off around the thousands. It also doesn't help that we haven't drawn that great of a hand. Regardless, I need to make sure my monsters stay above 1600 attack points at least, just to hit over his zombie cards. His deck is geared towards summoning out Pumpkin, but he can also pull off a twin-headed Thunder Dragon with the Thunder cards he has available to himself. Lucky for me this duel, things played out a bit better after the first few turns. With Ritual Summon into Mask of Shine and Dark, they really need to make a shorter name for that card, and start chipping away at his life points. There are 2 more turns needed to beat this guy. I think we're fairly safe in this duel, there's nothing he can pull out to stop us, unless he gets a magic YuGiOh. That aside, I just start beefing up some monsters as a precaution, in the event I need to take out something problematic. Getting to the last turn, it's Raigeki for the win, and we attack for game. First one of the run. Time for you to guess how many duels it took. Gold star chip for you if you guess 3 duels. Sanity loss for me because 3 duels equates to 15 minutes. Now time to tackle this old man without having a plan. Villager 3's deck is very similar to Villager 2. The only difference is, he has more thunder monsters and more dragons. You know what that means? Twin head. I thankfully get access to my ritual cards early game, so I can set them face down for future use. It's gonna start getting problematic when we face opponents that have spell and trap cards. You'll see what I mean when we get to the World Tournament. For now, our best bet is to power up our monsters to hit over 1600 attack points. For those of you asking why I don't run all 3 rituals in the deck, you're simply competing for too many resources trying to get them out. That was my initial deck when I started playtesting this run. It took far too long to even get past Teana. I think I was racking up about 8 losses. So if you're ever going to attempt this, I highly recommend sticking to 1 or 2 types. Bigger bonus if you do this in New Game Plus, you'll have a much better time. The remainder of this duel is lackluster. I'm grinding down my cards to pull my last needed ritual material. It's worth noting how much of a difference a decent starting hand makes for a ritual deck. There will be several instances in this playthrough where I'll be down to my last few cards, so while tempting, it's not always wise to burn through your deck too quickly, unless you like decking yourself out. I think I've gone through most of the explanations and recommendations. To keep a good flow for these overly long duels, I'm going to be dropping some card trivia along the way, just to spice things up a bit. But for now, let's fuse into our last ritual material and summon forth our Cosmo Queen. Heads up, seizure warning. Oh, how satisfying it is to hit for 2,900 attack points. My Bean Boys unite, you know what's coming next. It's Bean Soldier. He's definitely going to be the MVP and the GOAT for our plant run. Getting to our last turn, it's about that time for your guesses as to how many duels this took. Attacking for game with Cosmo Queen, this took 4 freaking duels. Having beaten everyone at the duel grounds, it's time for a cutscene. Never thought I'd be happy to see one of those. Stepping outside, we witness a festival occurring where all the residents are hoisting their cards up in the air in the attempt to bring forth a hot, big titty Egyptian waifu. Instead, they keep summoning fat, wrinkly high mages. We cut over to YuGiOh, who's struggling to comprehend what the intended mechanics are for performing a ritual summon in this game. Ooh, I feel you, buddy. Oh, and Seto's here too with his fusion deck. After some back and forth conversation that amounts to absolutely nothing, we'll leave the Mage Festival and save our game, just to preempt the next few duels that are about to come. Cutting back to the duel arena, we try our hand against YuGiOh. Kicking the duel off, our starting hand isn't that great. Regardless, whenever I obtain a ritual card within the first 2 turns, I always look to set it on the field. This is both to free up a space in my hand, and to have it readily available before the AI starts to pick up momentum. YuGiOh 1's deck is fortunately weaker than the last 2 villagers we've just faced off against. His strongest card is Baby Dragon, and he doesn't have any thunder types that can bring out a twin head, which is great for us. His counter to us, however, is in the Jar archetype that resides within his deck. Left to his own devices, YuGiOh will almost always find a way to summon our Ushi-Oni, which is going to be a problem for us. For the time being, our field is protected, so we need to churn through our deck to get more materials. This brings us to our first bit of trivia, starting with Masked Clown. Masked Clown is an OCG exclusive card that still to this day has not been released outside of Japan. The card also has not made any appearances in the anime or manga. The only crap that's been given to it was that it was included in Tristan's deck in World Championship 2006. And I guess with us, given that we're showcasing it in today's ritual run. Looking back at the duel, I'm having a really rough time drawing the cards that I need. As I'm commentating most of this post-recording, I did end up correcting the ratio about halfway through the preliminary tournament. For now, you're just going to have to put up with me juggling a few ritual types for the time being. I did do a few playthroughs of this just to work out a good deck, but I kept wiping very early on, so I didn't figure out the synergy till a lot later in this run. Thankfully, we finally get the piece that we need to bring out Cosmo Queen. I said peace, not piss. Quit laughing, you guys. You know who you are. We're nearing the last 2 turns of the duel. I don't think there's enough time for me to pull out some card trivia. Instead, I think I get a bit greedy and start gearing myself up to try and summon another ritual monster. That's right, I'm going to pull off 2 in one duel. Summoning our Mask of Darkness, we pull off a Construct Mask, look at the red seizure procedure, and summon out Mask of Shine and Dark. We attack for game with our Cosmo Queen, and it's time to guess how many duels this took, and what card we drop. We dropped a basic insect, and this took 3 duels. Seto walks in with his two groupie clones, proving that he himself may indeed be a fusion summon. Having two halves of the whole bitch following him, we don't waste time with words and challenge each other to a duel. We get off to a fairly decent start against Seto. I need to be cautious though, and ensure that I've beefed up my monsters to about 2300. This is to counter his guy, the Fierce Knight. His deck also has a fair amount of annoying spell cards. He's able to pull off Spellbinding Circle, Swords of Revealing Light, and worst of all, a friggin' Dark Hole. Now I could deal with my monsters being destroyed, but for the time being I'm setting a lot of spells and traps, so having a Dark Hole dropped on us is basically a reset in this duel. Speaking of spells and equips, I don't think I've actually mentioned what equip cards are compatible with all of the Cosmo Queen materials. I'll run through them real quick. Cyber Shield, Electro Whip, and Malevolent Nuzzler are compatible with Queen of Autumn Leaves, Princess of Tsurugi, and Queen's Double, which is why I run 3 copies of each in the deck. The other contender that I would be running would be Kunai with Chain. That's compatible with Queen's Double and Princess of Tsurugi, but not Queen of Autumn Leaves. As for the remainder, they're all assorted and not related to one another. Legendary Sword is compatible with Princess of Tsurugi, whereas Sword of Dark Destruction, Elf's Light, Silver Bow and Arrow, Horn of Light is compatible with Queen's Double. I don't actually remember the rest of them for Queen of Autumn Leaves. I think it's Vol Germs and Book of Secret Arts, which are the missing two. Which brings us to the beast that is Cosmo Queen. Cosmo Queen is compatible with 10 equip cards, those being Insect Armor with Laser Cannon, Elf's Light, Silver Bow and Arrow, Horn of the Unicorn, Electro Whip, Cyber Shield, Malevolent Nuzzler, Book of Secret Arts, Megamorph, and Bright Castle. With my timing being perfect, Raigeki for the win, attack for game, we win a Dharma Cannon, and guess what? We beat Seto first try. After beating Seto and saying bye to our buddies, we decide to call it a night and meet back with a frostbitten testicle who sends us to our room. Rumbling occurs outside and we exit to find all the bedrooms have been ransacked and the palace pillow stolen by Jafar, who has fused them into his Millennium body pillow. Fizdis wakes us up. Yes, she has a name apparently. Anyways, Fish Sticks gets captured by Seto to be used as fusion material for Haishin's waifu pillow, so we book it outside. Confronted by Seto, we're about to ritual all over this guy when the blue napkin reveals that he's hid the Millennium Pazusi from Jafar. Running away with a pocket puzzle, Jafar confronts us and challenges us to a duel. Now I contemplate at this point whether I should try challenge him seriously and see if our current starting deck has any chance against him. I don't know why I decided to kid myself, this ends up being an absolute time waster, especially when his first card is Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth. Got nothing on this bloke, yet I still struggle in vain, cause why not? What's fortunate to see is that Cosmo Queen gets powered up by the Dark Field, which will make the final 6 a little bit easier, but then I forget that Seto, Dark Knight and Nitemare don't use any of that field, so I guess it won't. Anywho, number 4, for this duel we don't bother counting it because it is a scripted loss at the end of the day. Blue Ball grabs Jafar and tells us that we need to beat the Pazusi up. Letting our instincts take over, we smash that box. Condemning old mate to a world of purgatory, screen fades to white and we warp ourselves back to the present. Welcome to the 2015 World Tournament. Rituals have been obliterated by the November ban list and fusion engines are on the rise with Brilliant Fusion and Masked Heroes gaining popularity. I have avoided the mention of pendulums because none of the people in this game would have any idea on what the hell those are. It is better their brains are never exposed to Pepe, or Fafa for that matter. With the loosest tie into our current plot, let's kick up our first duel against Rex. Rex is a great opponent to ease us into the World Tournament. His deck is weaker than that of Seto 1, so he shouldn't pose much of a threat to us. The strongest card in his deck is Eurabia at 1500 attack points. He also has the field spell Wasteland, which he might activate on us if we let this duel drag on for a good while. This really feels like we're going up against our dinosaur deck. Maybe at the end of all these runs, I'll run a World Tournament where I have all the decks that I finish the game with compete against each other to see who lands up on top at being the strongest. Spoiler, don't think Ritual will be up there. If I were to say out of our current decks which I feel is the strongest, those being Dinosaur, Sea Serpent and Insect, I'd have to put Sea Serpent as my top choice, purely due to having access to Aqua Dragon and Sea King Dragon. If full power Pocket Station was allowed, Insect would win by a long shot, and that'd probably be the same case for a lot of the other decks we have access to. Moving along back to the duel, we're getting close to our final turn. We finally pull off a Ritual Summon and bring forth our Cosmo Queen. Cosmo Queen for this run is basically the Raigeki for the win of every other run. She's going to be our win condition for a very good while. Getting to our last few turns, it's time to guess how many duels it took me to beat Rex Raptor. And also what card he will drop after we defeat him. Card drop is Nightmare Scorpion, and we took one duel to beat him. That's right, this was a first game win. Our next duel is against Weevil. Weevil is a fair increase in power from Rex. We need to be cautious of his Jiraiya, which he will likely summon against us given the amount of turns it takes to complete a duel. Getting a monster over 2200 attack points is a must, obviously. Fun fact, Weevil also has a Urabi in his deck, so even he does a better job of being Rex than Rex does. Take that what you will. Anywho, number 5, let's have a trivia break. This time we're looking at the card Mask of Darkness, one of the ritual materials for Mask of Shine and Dark. Mask of Darkness is a trap counterpart of Magician of Faith. Obvious trivia is obvious. In the episode 40 of the Duelist Kingdom anime, Evil Bakura flips this card over when he's doing his tarot reading for Pegasus. This is right before the Millennium item face-off. Aside from that, this card features in 2 other artworks of the YuGiOh TCG, those being Future Destruction and Vain Betrayer. Also, on an unrelated note, trivia aside, given that this card is called Mask of Darkness, I don't know why the rare hunters didn't just slap this on their faces. Missed opportunity right there, but I guess it was easier to animate the other masks versus this one. Getting back to the duel, I seem to have almost maxed out all my monster zones, and still haven't brought out any ritual cards. One thing to note, which is where I kept making mistakes in this playthrough, you need to always leave one monster zone available on your side of the field. Given that the Cosmo Queen material cards are both warriors and fairies, they fuse with a lot of cards. On top of that, they share the subtype of female, so there's also the female specific fusions that they can launch into. So yeah, like I said, keep a space free. Oh hey, Ritual Summon. Here's Cosmo Queen. At this point of the duel I have a very long pause. It's because I accidentally unplugged my controller. Genius, right? Fiddling under my desk like a monkey looking for a nut, I finally plug it back in and resume our gameplay. In anticipation of this, Weevil seems to smarten up and starts putting down some defensive heavy monsters. I had to actually attack him with Cosmo Queen, which is wasting a good number of turns. But never fear, I get some sweet retribution by summoning a Mask of Darkness and pulling off our second ritual, this time for Mask of Shine and Dark. Oh boy, does it feel great being able to attack with 2 monsters directly. Time for you to guess the card in the duels. It's Raigeki for the win, and we win Nightmare Scorpion, and we beat Weevil in 3 duels. Our next opponent is Mai. I've been looking forward to this. After defeating her, we will finally have access to more ritual material, widening our arsenal even further. Who knows, maybe we might change our deck. But first, we can't get too ahead of ourselves. Mai's deck has several monsters reaching 2000 attack points, and she also has the nasty tendency of fusing into a Crimson Sunbird. Though she doesn't have any Pyro monsters in her deck, if she fuses into a Metal Dragon, it has the secondary type of Pyro, which lets her pull off this combination. Or if she simply uses Darkfire Dragon, which also has a secondary type of Pyro. Given that this might be the last time we'll have the Construct Mask engine in our deck, I'll give you all some trivia on the Mask of Shine and Dark ritual card. After a large amount of googling, it's true. This card has never been printed in both the TCG or OCG. It remains till this day a game-only card, featuring in Forbidden Memories, Duelist of the Roses, Dark Duel Stories, and Red Chef of Destruction. By extension, this also means that its ritual card Construct Mask falls under the same category, with the exception of Red Chef of Destruction, where Mask of Shine and Dark was its own standalone monster and did not need to be ritual summoned. Getting back to the duel, this is taking a lot longer than I anticipated. Mai seems to have been taking out my monsters one by one, making it very hard for me to keep something on the field long enough to pull off a ritual. At this point, she's summoning things over 2200 attack points. Or if not close to that, so everything I place on the field from this point forward needs to be overpowered. I think I might genuinely have a better chance of decking her out if this keeps up. She has been very heavy-handed with her use of fusions. I also need to be prepared for her to pull out either a Harpy's Feather Duster or a Dark Hole. Yes, that's right, she has both a Harpy's Feather Duster and a Dark Hole. That's not fun for us. To top things off, she also carries a Spellbinding Circle in her deck, which she hasn't seemed to have used as of yet. I am also getting very cautious of the amount of cards I've burnt through my deck. I need to not be too trigger happy with discarding cards just to give myself enough turns to whittle her life points down to 0 when I eventually start attacking with a ritual monster. And speaking of, it's ritual time. Mai does carry 2 traps in her deck, those being Fake Trap and Bear Trap. I suspect her face down cards are either equip cards she hasn't used yet, or maybe a Bear Trap. which we don't meet the conditions to activate thankfully. From this point of the duel, you know how it's going to play. We've got one card, it's an absolute powerhouse, we're going to win. Let's take some guesses. What card do you reckon we're going to drop? And how many duels do you reckon it took me to defeat Mai? Lock in your answers now. On an unrelated note, for those of you that didn't hear it from my last video, there is an attack and defense point cap with this game. No matter how many equip cards you give a single monster, it would always cap out at 9999. Anywho, it's Raigeki for a win, we attack for game, and we win a Fiend Reflection number 2, which is actually a ritual material. And we took 5 duels to defeat Mai. Time for some grinding. We'll need to get Dark Fire Dragon and Feral Imp from Mai. And whilst we're at it, we should spend our star chips and pick up a Serpent Knight Dragon ritual. Now if I really wanted to, I could take this time and grind for star chips to get cards available in the later half of the game. But I want to keep things above board. Especially because I can't reasonably expect someone to do this on official hardware for weeks on end just to get a broken starting deck. On screen is our revised deck. We've added the engine in for Serpent Knight Dragon. The cards required are Darkfire Dragon, a Beast Marmot of Nefariousness, and Dragonis the Wicked Knight. Bye bye Construct Mask, time to get back to the game. Up next is Bandit Keith. Bandit Keith took me an unbelievable amount of time to beat. I have no idea why, but the game decided to slap me upside the head with its RNG. I drew terrible hands for a good number of duels, so expect your guesstimate for the end of this one to be a high one. His deck isn't too much of an improvement over Mai, with the exception of him having a Zoa. Zoa at 2600 attack points is a big problem for us. I don't believe I have enough equip cards to keep all of my monsters topped up at the same time. We will need to have a playthrough against this guy where he doesn't summon Zoa, or for that matter, Metal Zoa, which he can and will use against you. He is also prone to summoning forth a twin-headed Thunder Dragon if he pulls off an Immortal of Thunder fusion. That is not ideal either, and he will freaking use it. I never realized until now how much I hated this guy. Okay, negativity aside, let's get back to the gameplay. The ritual that I'm going to be targeting for the duel looks to be Serpent Knight Dragon. I have all the necessary materials in my hand to summon it, but I'm lacking in power protection. Dark Energy is the equipped spell that has the most compatibility from all our monsters. Electro Whip and Cyber Shield cover all our female types for Cosmo Queen, whilst Dark Energy powers up Queen's Double as well as Dark Fire Dragon and I think Dragonis the Wicked Knight. I'm not going to bother with her Beast Marmot of Nefariousness, it is far too weak. Speaking of rituals, here we go. Revival of Serpent Knight Dragon, and his seizure procedure is pink. We finally have a ritual monster on the field. Time to deal some damage to this guy's life points. And as we do so, I'll rattle off some trivia regarding Serpent Knight Dragon. This card's name is actually an English translation error. The Japanese name is Evil Knight Dragon, that's Knight spelt with a K. No idea how they stuffed that one up. Anywho, number 6, we're leading to our final turn. You can tell by my tone that I had a bit of a miserable time against this guy, so have a guess at how many duels this took me, and also guess what card this guy's going to drop. He dropped the Mechanical Spider, and this took 7 duels to beat. That's right, 7. With Keith out of the way, we finally get rewarded with a cutscene. Joey is telling us a story about his cousin Joseph, when our conversation gets interrupted by Shadi. The Shades Master tells us to touch him and have a conversation with ourselves. Odd kink, but I'll play along. Our past puppy tells us that we need to help ritual summon him back to Egypt, and he hands us 7 of the cards needed to collect the required materials. Taking a good look at one now, it's time to commit some good old grand larceny. So let's skip the jibber jabber and get into a duel with Shadi. To recap our view of Shadi as an opponent, Shadi is a pushover. If you lose to him, you suck at this game, and you should end your run right here, right now. This is definitely not going to come back and bite me for all 20-ish monster types I need to go through. Anywho, number 7, back to the duel. We don't draw too spectacular of a hand. There isn't much to go on as to what ritual type we should be focusing on. Given that we have a Cosmo Queen's Prayer in our hand, I think we'll set that, just in case we get lucky on our next few turns. Shadi's strongest card in his deck is 7 Coloured Fish, followed by Giant Red Sea Snake. They both cap off at 1800 attack points. So long as we summon a Queen of Autumn Leaves, we're sitting pretty comfortably in this duel. From a fusion perspective, he has access to Crimson Sunbird, as you can see on screen, and surprisingly, Sea King Dragon if he pulls off his fusions correctly. Other than that, the GG easy strat that he tries to pull off is to go for the lower zombie cards. Like I said, he's not that hard of an opponent at this stage of the game, even with rituals. I think the only conceptual way you could lose to him is if you deck yourself out, and with that, you're technically beating yourself, as seen in my Sea Serpent run. Continuing some card trivia for Serpent Knight Dragon. I mentioned before that its name was a translation error. If you go by its Japanese name of Evil Knight Dragon, it can be argued that it's an evil counterpart to Seiyaru, which literally translates to Holy Knight Dragon. How's that for some cereal box quality trivia, eh? Anywho, number 8, back to the duel. And we've drawn too many Cosmo Queen prayers. At least we have a Raigeki to salvage it. I get frustrated at this point and start burning through my hand. I'm just going to go for it and beef up Princess of Tsurugi to as high as I can. Unless he pulls out a Crimson Sunbird, we should be okay. At this point I'm one ritual shy of both Serpent Knight Dragon and Cosmo Queen, so I guess we'll see what pulls out on top first. And it looks like it's Serpent Knight Dragon. Hooray! Finally get a ritual on the field. I wonder how the game devs decided on what colour to use for a ritual summon, because it's not really that consistent. The pink for Serpent Knight Dragon comes from its background, but where did the red for Marks of Shine and Dark come from? I think they just banked on the fact that nobody would use this mechanic. But much to their surprise, here's me pulling it off twice in one duel. Let that awesomeness sink in. With our 2 rituals on the field, it's time to guess what card we drop and how many duels this took. We got a Turupurin, and this took 1 duel. First try, people, no restarts for me. Oh, and we steal his ritual material. Mine. Our next habitual ritual duel is against Yami Bakura. Bakura has an interesting deck in that he focuses more on defense instead of offense, which is great for us. His strongest attacking monsters are Dark Elf, Gemini Elf, and Amphibious Bugroth. His deck is comprised primarily of spellcasters and fairy type monsters, so expect to see some 1800 attack fusions as well. On paper, this doesn't sound like too bad of a matchup, but you'd be wrong. Those who've memorized the deck list know that this pain in the prick has a Spellbinding Circle, Reverse Trap, and Dark Hole. I hate him so freaking much, which obviously foreshadows that I didn't beat him first try. Anywho, number 9, I need to make sure I'm not too trigger happy with Queen of Autumn Leaves. Though she's 1800 attack, the top 3 attacking monsters in his deck hit over her, so I need to make sure that I have an equipped card handy for when that time comes. Oh look, that's a decent draw. I'm going to take a gamble here and summon a Princess of Tsurugi. I think I can beef her up to about 1900 attack points, so I'm hoping he doesn't summon a Dark Elf. It'd be some pretty crap top decking if that was the case. And right on cue, it's like the game RNG knows exactly what we're doing. It gives us a Cosmo Queen's Prayer. Next turn, we'll be summoning out our Cosmo Queen. Hooray for that, hopefully this won't take too long. Unless this was one of my failed playthroughs. Yami ended up using a Dark Hole on me. That was not fun. I was about 30 cards into the duel and it was a colossal waste of time. We're now getting to the last few turns of this duel. So far so good. No cheeky Dark Hole to throw us off our game. It's about that time again. Have a guess at how long this duel took me. And also what card Yami Bakura is going to drop for us. Attack 1, attack for game, and we win Hurricane. And this duel took me 2 tries, which wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Oh, and we stole his ritual material ring. Saving our game, we're up against Pegasus. I had mixed feelings about going into this duel, as his deck has such a variety in the way it plays. It can be hyper offensive or annoyingly disruptive. If he goes the hyper offensive route, we'll have to contend with Meteor Black Dragon and Bakuri Box. As for his fusions, he'll be pulling out a Crimson Sunbird or a Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. If Pegasus goes the disruptive route, we'll be dealing with Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Dusters, Fake Traps, and Dragon Capture Jars. This means that the Serpent Knight Dragon is not going to be a viable ritual for this duel. And why is Fake Trap a problem? Well, it slows down my momentum, so if he's trying to fuse something with monsters already on the field, a Fake Trap is going to ensure that he's able to pull that off. Regardless, the main threat is Raigeki and Feather Duster. Somebody also told me in the comments that he actually has 4 Raigeki. Unconfirmed, but I'm keen to hear more. Getting back to the duel, we can count off one of his Feather Dusters, so that's one less we need to worry about. So we can count off 2 of his Harpy's Feather Dusters. Will he get us with a 3rd? No, back to normal now. I'm keeping a stock of Raigeki in my hand. No surprise there for anyone that's watched my videos. This is so I can combat any Meteor Black Dragons he might drop on us. Or Twin Thunder Headed Dragons for that fact. With the duel becoming a game of attrition, let's drop some card trivia. This time we'll pick on... No... Are you freaking kidding me? That's what I get for leaving it on the field as Jupiter. Anywho, Dragoness the Wicked Knight, one of the materials needed for Serpent Knight Dragon. Despite this card looking and reading like it's a female monster, it's not. It's not compatible with any of the female equipped cards. In the TCG, this card is a fusion monster, and one of its material is Airmail, a male suit of armor. which is what I suspect is the reason for this. Peggy Boy finally used his last Harpy's Feather Duster. We should be free to set whatever card we want from this point on. I am very close to a Cosmo Queen fusion, so let's grind through our deck and see how quickly we can get this thing out. We still need to contend with 3 Raigekis, so let's hope he does not pull any of those out. Getting to our next turn, come on, yes. We pulled the Queen's double, it's time for a Cosmo Queen. Those birds in the background are not mine, they are wild. Gosh, they're still going. When Beast Run when? With the ample amount of Raigeki in my hand, I think it's time we fire some of them off. It's Raigeki 1. And get ready, it's Raigeki 2. Can this game give us the 3rd Raigeki in the next draw? Nope, I was hoping for too much. Anywho, number 10. Let's get ready to attack. I was going to say attack for game, but it looks like he stopped us on that one. Getting to our final turn, it's time to guess what card Pegasus is going to drop and how many duels this took us. God, my birds have started now. Okay, we win an Umi, and this duel took us 3 goes to defeat. Let's pop out an eyeball and save our game, as we get ready for the next duel. Up next we have a match against the modern day version of Jafar's Body Pillow, except with a little less thickness. Pillow's deck is geared towards summoning Aqua and Sea Serpent monsters. She'll be pulling out a Roaring Ocean Snake, Aqua Dragon, Sea King Dragon, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, and in rare cases a Black Skull Dragon. I got very lucky in my starting hand and drew the right materials to fuse into a Flame Cerberus. This card has a secondary Guardian Star of Pluto, which counts as the aforementioned monsters. This should buy us some time to churn through our deck and get the monsters we need. Upon defeating Pegasus in our last duel, we now have access to farm for Bright Castles and Megamorph. I can't do that effectively because my current mechanism would be to deck Pegasus out, so we'll target those 2 equip cards after we've beaten Kaiba. As we wind down the clock, it's time for some card trivia. This time we'll focus on Obese Marmot of Nefariousness. This card is the blue, fat counterpart to Archfiend Marmot of Nefariousness. That is all. Both this card and Archfiend Marmot of Nefariousness are completely outclassed by its future self, Nefarious Archfiend Eater of Nefariousness. And if you read all those cards backwards, you get Nefariousness of Eat Archfiend Nefarious, Nefariousness of Marmot Archfiend, Nefariousness of Marmot Obese. I think I'm losing my mind. Take a drink every time I say the word nefarious. Due to the poor RNG we're getting with our draws, I'll fire off another piece of trivia. This time we'll focus on the last material for Serpent Knight Dragon, that being Darkfire Dragon. This card is one of the heads of 5-headed dragon. This card is also the monster that's wrapping around the equip card Salamandra. This is one of 4 monsters that has 1250 defense in the TCG, till this day. The others are Chronicle Sorceress, Evil Swarm Golem, and Evil Swarm O-Lantern. In the TCG, its fusion materials are Petite Dragon and Firegrass. Despite this thing being called Darkfire Dragon, neither of those 2 cards are dark or fire. Chalk that up to the list of what the hell fusions that Konami has come up with. Speaking of Konami uh-ohs, in the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2008 game, Darkfire Dragon is in the game, but Firegrass is not. Getting back to the game. Now this duel has gone on for quite some time, which means Pillow's going to start bringing out some of her stronger monsters, like that Aqua Dragon right there. I still haven't drawn a Cosmo Queen's Prayer, so I think we're going to have to do a fusion for it. 7.5 minutes of real in-game time, and we finally pull out a Ritual Summon. Hooray for that. We need to go absolutely gangbusters on her life points. We don't have the luxury of whittling away our deck, so we need to be cautious with the amount of cards we're using from this point. The game finally throwing me a bone here. It's Raigeki for the win, and we attack for game. If my math was correct, we're short 50 life points. Whoops. Lock your guesses in now. The card we win is Armored Starfish, and this took 1 duel, believe it or not, first try. Saving our game, we're on the home stretch of the World Tournament. Hopefully this duel won't take as long as the previous. Well, that's not good. So up next is Kaiba. This guy here is the #1 reason as to why this video took so long to make. His deck is comprised of several middle fingers. On the one hand, we have Blue Eyes White Dragon, Thousand Dragon, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, Crimson Sunbird, all of those backed up by an entire deck of monsters over 1700 attack. On the other hand, we also have a Dark Hole, a Crush card, a Shadow Spell, and a Stop Defense. He also has Swords of Revealing Light, just to really drive home how much of a pain in the butt this guy is. The longer this duel takes, the worse it gets for us. The only saving grace we have is that he doesn't carry any Harpy's Feather Dusters. Looking at this playthrough retrospectively, I should have grinded for Megamorphs off screen with Pegasus before I faced Kaiba. I had more than enough resources available to me, with Pillow dropping us an Acid Trap Hole, and Simon dropping us a Fake Trap. Those cards would have been sufficient enough to A-Tec Pegasus. Heck, even decking him out was an option. Either way, I didn't do it. I'm just stupid, that's all. Things so far are going well. We're on track with a lot of what we... Oh, you're gotta be freaking kidding me. Well, that's crush card number 1. There's the aforementioned middle finger to us. At this point I get a bit tilted and go gangbusters with my monster cards. I'm gonna equip everything I have to this card, because there's no way I'm gonna be wiping to this guy again. My hand thus far is poor. I'm going to churn through my deck until I can pull out a Queen of Autumn Leaves, even if it means throwing out most of my equipped cards. If I'm sounding overly cautious, just know that my current duel counter with Kaiba is in the double digits, so forgive me for my current attitude today. As mentioned in our duel with Pillow, once I defeat Kaiba, I will be going back and grinding for some much needed trap cards, as well as doing the S-Tech run a bit earlier, aiming to get Bright Castle Megamorph through Pegasus. With Kaiba having a Crimson Sunbird on the field, we need to make sure that we set our Queen of Autumn Leaves to a Moon Guardian Star. And look at that, we actually drew one. Let's get the fusing going, and summon it. We are one step closer to getting a ritual monster out. I will look to keep the Raigeki in my hand. I have a certain itch that needs to be scratched. Should probably get that looked at. Taking Yami Yuga's advice, we need to believe in the heart of the cards, hoping that we'll draw a Queen's Double on our next turn. Yugi, you absolute legend. Finally, we pull off a ritual. And not a moment too soon, we only have 6 cards in our deck, so those Raigeki will really come in handy. To prevent some funny business, I'm going to throw an equip card on my Cosmo Queen, just in case he decides to drop a Blue Eyes on us. I'm giving up this run if he draws another Crush card or a Raigeki. Okay, for our end, it's Raigeki number 1, attack, nothing to respond, it's Raigeki for the win, and we attack for game. We won a Sogen, and this took 14, that's right, 14 duels to defeat, which equated to about 3 hours in real time. Having successfully collected the materials, we trigger the ritual summon in the sky. Conveniently, the ritual card needed to summon the pharaoh is Simon. I guess that explains why he's blue. Opening the gates to Egypt, we return home to the Salacion ruins. Well, better say hi to Sidin. Beginning our interaction with Sidin, we stop and wonder how this guy has blue clothing. Blue is not a natural occurring colour in nature, so where the heck did this guy get his clothes from? And before you say blueberries are frickin' purple. Anywho, number 11, we book it to the duel grounds so we can lock the card shop to save our game. I think we deserved it. And it's about that time we grind for some cards. You've seen this all before. We grind and obtain the following trap cards from the 3 listed opponents. Now, I've made an adjustment to the tech formula I've used because I gave poor Hippo-chan a heart attack with a horribly wasteful method I've been using in my prior videos. Note that when I do card grinds, I'm still playing with ritual cards. The conditions below reflect how my duels actually went when using a ritual deck. The conditions can be shortened significantly if I incurred more life point damage and made more effective attacks against my opponent. I highly recommend you check out the Forbidden Memories rank calculator on speedrun.com. And thanks again Hippo-chan for the wealth of advice you've given me for this run. Despite the lengthy explanation, I think I still found it easier to deck Pegasus out and obtain the cards I needed versus running with the formula. It's very painful trying to pull these off with a ritual deck, but nonetheless, we get a Bright Castle and a Megamorph, and ended up grinding enough star chips to redeem a Queen of Autumn Leaves from the Password Trader. Our next iteration of our deck looks like this. I dropped all other rituals and focused purely on bringing out Cosmo Queen. I'm going to trial leaving all the trap cards from my grinding in this deck to see if it gives me a leg up in my next few duels, and also realign the equip cards. With all that done, it's time to continue the story. Fading back to reality, we ransack the ruins of our dead parents' bedroom. This is where we score off against the Mage Soldier. Mage Soldier should not be too difficult an opponent. His strongest card is Jiraiya at 2200 attack points, and the default fusion that he usually goes for is Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. Surprise surprise there. I need to adjust playing this game with trap cards, outside of an S-Tech duel I guess. Casually, I don't run any of them, relying on sheer brawn to beat my way to the ending. I will say that having a Queen of Autumn Leaves as a standalone card gives me a sigh of relief, as I can at least Megamorph her to hit over the later problem cards we're going to face like Gate Guardian. And hey, if I get really lucky, I might even be able to hit over Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. But this isn't a solo Queen of Autumn Leaves run. I have to make sure I leave enough Megamorphs for my ritual monsters, otherwise they're not getting that far on their own. Speaking of, we finally pull off a Cosmo Queen. This makes me happy, yay. This also makes me happy, yay. After the slugfest that was the World Tournament, I am very happy to be able to start steamrolling my opponents again. This is not going to last though. The mages are going to be a problem. After defeating this bloke, we get a Dark Energy, and we actually beat him first try, though you could probably tell that from how one-sided the duel was. Obtaining a map, we head back to Sidin, who takes us to the location where the next big fusion summon is going to happen. Ignoring the sky like a Sigma, we stare at the golden wall where Seto jump scares us like Clippy from Microsoft Word. He tells us that Jafar has dumped his failed fusion summons across the various shrines to collect more material for his body pillow fusion. Wanting nothing more than to trample on the desires of a lonely incel, we set off to take down the mages. Picking the low-hanging fruit, we challenge the forest shrine first. I picked this one in particular as the forest field spell boosts Queen of Autumn Leaves attack power, which is a nice bonus for us. I am uncertain if I'll need to update this deck before the final 6, or for any of the other mages for that fact. If I'm having difficulty keeping the materials alive, I can swap out the Cosmo Queen engine for either a Trihorn Dragon or Zero Demant Ritual. Or is it Zero Demant? I don't know. Anywho, number 12, Zero Demant Ritual has King of Yami Bakura, Ryukish Empowered, and Wicked Dragon with an Asat's head as its materials. Those have attack ratings of 2000, 1600, and 900 respectively. Whereas Trihorn Dragon has Black Dragon Jungle King, Feral Imp, and Torike, each with attack ratings of 2100, 1300, and 1200. I'll see how I fare against the mages and make the decision later. One thing to consider is that Cosmo Queen gets boosted on a dark field, but its fairy materials get reduced by 500 attack points. So let's keep that in the back of our minds if we start to struggle. For the remainder of this duel, I'm going to burn through my deck to get the last ritual materials. Like I said, I'm not used to running decks with traps in them, so I might end up hoarding and setting cards a bit unnecessarily. You'll just have to be patient with me as I start to get the hang of the game a bit more. With that being said, cards like Acid Trap Hole will be dropped out in some of the later fights, so who knows what I'll switch until then. It might balance the deck a bit more. I would absolutely love to put in the Swords of Revealing Light, but like I said before, it is locked behind a pocket station. I'll look to dip into that if we're getting absolutely bodied in the final 6. You know we will be, but I want to give myself at least some chance, or at least till I lose my sanity. With Swords of Revealing Light finally releasing from our side of the field, we can finally get up to some shenanigans. Let's clear his field and kick off a ritual summon. I also stupidly thought that I set down some equip cards, but they were traps. Bamboozled again. Oh boy, does the duel go a lot faster with a ritual card. Gotta love that. It's about that time again for this duel's guessing game. But first, it's Raigeki for the win, and we attack for game. We win a Metabat, and believe it or not, I won this duel first try. How's that for some good luck? Moving along to Anubisius, Jafar tried to incorporate a bondage kink into his last fusion summon. Unfortunately, that fusion failed, and he ended up with his toilet paper wrapped raisin instead. As an opponent, Anubisius will be focused on his bug types. We'll need to watch out for his perfectly ultimate Great Moth, and his lower insect monsters. They end up getting boosted to 3000 attack due to the field spell. In the spell department, he has Swords of Revealing Light and Harpy's Feather Duster, alongside of a set of equip cards that I've never seen him use. Not once. Anywho, number 14. I drew into a fairly decent hand this duel. I ended up getting all the materials needed for a Cosmo Queen, just missing out on the ritual card. At the end of the day, we're up against Anubisius. I'd rank him in terms of difficulty in the middle of the pack for all other mages. First would be Kepura, second is Atenza, third is this guy, fourth is Secmeton, and fifth is Martis. Rankings have all been based on their strongest monster. In this case, Anubisius has a perfectly ultimate Great Moth. But that's the only card he has that's over 3500 attack, hence why he's in the middle. Atenza and Kepura, you're contending with Gate Guardians, and Atenza has a Meteor Black Dragon as well as a bunch of other dragons. Secmeton is water, so it doesn't matter, and Martis is actually pathetic even though he's very intimidating. His strongest card is Zoa. Just Zoa. Don't get me wrong, absolutely love the card, but come on, give him something a little bit stronger than that. To give you guys a preview of what's to come, once I've completed all the type challenges in this game, I'm going to continue this challenge run with character decks. So for example, can you beat the game as Seto3, or can you beat the game as High Mage Kepura, etc, etc. The thing that I'll need to figure out for those is the deck construction. The AI has access to more than 40 cards and makes this deck based on RNG. I'll also be handicapped in that I won't have visibility of what my opponent's cards are, and also that my hand is limited to 5 cards. Having grinded down the time, we finally can pull off a ritual and summon out a Cosmo Queen. I need to be very conscious as well that I don't get her killed so early. Having a few equipped cards in my hand or set on the field is gonna be a must. With access to her, the duel is over in a blink of an eye. So it's time to guess. What card are we gonna drop? And how many attempts did it take me? But first it's Raigeki for the win, even though there are no monsters, and we attack for game. We win a Horn Imp, and this took me 4 attempts surprisingly. We steal an item off Bandage Face, and we make it back to the main screen to challenge another mage. This time we're going to hit up the Meadow Shrine. The greatest mage ever, the Meadow Mage. There are a number of good cards we could obtain off this guy, but unfortunately almost all of them are locked behind an A power or an S power rank. Our ritual deck is unable to pull off that rank against any opponent. If I had access to those ranks, it would open up more ritual material beat sticks that I could use, but also give me better access to some strong ritual cards. Dark Magician for instance. That would be a card I'd spam the ever-loving heck out of if I was strong enough to attain it off this guy. For those of you that don't know, you can obtain Dark Magician from Meadow Mage if you A power or S power rank him. As from the ritual perspective, the Gate Guardian pieces are dropped by Haishin if you get him in an A rank. That would be GG easy mode for this run if I had them. Who knows? I'll see how I fare against the final 6. I might need to dip into the pocket station to get them if the worst comes to worse. Oh sorry, I skipped the opponent analysis. Meadow Mage isn't an overly tough opponent. His Judge Man is the strongest card offensively, but he can also pull out a Millennium Shield if he wants to take the defensive route. More tedious than actually difficult. What makes him even more annoying is that he will also drop Swords of Revealing Light. Again, a bit of a slow play, and I think you'll start to see that more with all the other mages that we're going to be coming up against. For some reason they seem to main deck that card, which isn't so much of a problem, but it makes it harder to clear the field on their end, so they might pull out some busted fusions if we're not too careful. But I think we're getting to the level where their solo monsters are just as strong as fusions. But do you know what's stronger than a fusion? That's right, a ritual. And we got one, finally. Pulling off a signature Raigeki, we get the duel down to its final 2 turns. Time for you guys to guess what cards I'm going to drop. But before that, let's power up Cosmo Queen so we can definitely take out the opponent in one hit, and see if we can clear the field with another Raigeki. Look at that, I'm a psychic. The intensifies and we get a Muka Muka, and we beat these in our first try. Let's head over to the High Mage. In another failed attempt at a waifu fusion summon, Haishin made a fusion attempt for the thickest waifu across the land. Unfortunately, that fusion failed and we ended up with Chief Teana Book over here, aka High Mage Kepura. Now as an opponent, Kepura is the strongest of the High Mages. His strongest card is Gate Guardian, which is boosted on the meta field to 4250 attack, close to the firepower of a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. As backups, he also keeps a Black Skull Dragon handy, which is also not that good for us. In the spell card department, like all other mages, he runs Harpy's Feather Duster and Swords of Revealing Light. But also, in a cruel twist of AI behaviour, he is indeed smart enough to use equipped cards. Too smart in that fact. One of the duels I had against him, which I sadly didn't save the footage for, had him boost his Gate Guardian twice with a Sword of Dark Destruction, leaving a 5250 attack Goliath on the field for me to contend with. Not fun for me. In another run, he went the absolute defensive wall route. He did the same thing to his Wall Shadow, instead boosting it to 5000 defense points. Safe to say, I also lost that duel. What is important to remember as well is that Kepura's Gate Guardian and Black Skull Dragon, as well as his Wall Shadow, will always be set to a Moon Guardian star. We need to make sure that our Cosmo Queen is set to Uranus instead of Venus, otherwise we'll lose the matchup against them. Which I have also done. Kepura is one of the key reasons that this run took me a while, outside of the final 6 of course. The RNG I had encountered had him consistently summon Gate Guardians on turn 1, which meant that I needed the starting hand containing of at least 1 Megamorph, along with 3 equip cards and a Queen of Autumn Leaves. I'm bad at math, so from a probability perspective that's like a 1 in screw you chance of happening. And there we go. Right on cue, this bloke decides to power up his Wall Shadow again to 5000 defense points. So that is proof that I wasn't joking about what the heck this guy was doing to me before. Being absolutely paranoid of his Gate Guardian, I went a bit too trigger happy with the trap cards. I was really drawing some dud hands and I kept getting widespread ruins. I'm pretty sure if I dumped the bulk of my hand, this duel would have been over sooner, but I at least managed to take out one of them as you just saw on screen. With my field loaded up like a Duelist of the Roses playthrough, I start churning through my hand and throwing out more equip cards. I have forgotten how many Raigeki I've gone through, but I suspect that I at least have one handy so I can clear his field, otherwise we're going to be in some trouble. Finally top decking our last needed material, we summon out Princess of Tsurugi, take out his War Shadow, and kick off a Cosmo Queen's Prayer. Using our reserve of equip cards, we start boosting our Cosmo Queen, because I have forgotten as well in this stage how many Gate Guardians he has. I think I've taken out all of them, but again, I've lost count. So to protect my Cosmo Queen, I set a weaker monster to attack mode. But it looks like that won't be needed. It's Raigeki for the win, and we attack for game. And we win, a grappler. And this took me 8 freaking duels to complete. And remember, losing to Kepura means I had to go back to the Meadow Mage and start that all over again. So that was not fun. With 2 mages down, it's time to seek out Seto3. Heading to the duel grounds, Jono informed us that Haishin has gone full Jafar and kidnapped Teana. Wow, never thought that Jafar reference would go the full meta. But anywho, number 15, we book it to the Far Shrine and face off against Egyptian Tsuzukichi. Its flip will get flipped because if we lose to Seto3, we'll have to refight this disc all over again, and I'm not about to do that. The Labyrinth Mage, despite being called a mage, does not have a Millennium item or a pre-activated fill spell. Sucks to be him. What doesn't suck, however, is his deck. His strongest cards are Gate Guardian, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, and the Gate Guardian pieces. Spell-wise, he has a few doozies. He runs Stop Defense, Reverse Trap, Fake Trap, and Acid Trap Hole. Reverse Trap is pretty nasty. You might send me sacrifice a few spell cards to try and trigger it if I think it's been set in the back row. But aside from that, I would place this guy above Martis in terms of power. They should have shoved Pinwheel Face in the Labyrinth and given this guy a fair go. But I'm not the game developer, so I'll take it as it plays. I'm also not that smart either, because repeatedly you'll see me use my Queen of Autumn leaves to hit into his War Shadow. I don't know why I do that. I know it's a War Shadow. I can probably even see that it's a War Shadow, yet I still attack it for some odd reason. Oh well. With all things aside, we set off a Cosmo Queen's Prayer. That was a loss faster compared to our previous duels. Remembering to set it as Uranus to combat any Gate Guardians, we start attacking his Great Mammoth Goldfine, and like I said, I attacked into his defense position monster like a frickin' Zon. But all things aside, it's my turn, so it's Raigeki number 1, and we attack. His turn, nothing. Raigeki for the win, we attack for game, and we win. Zaragun, and we did this in the first try. Like I said, not going through all this again. Doing the Nutbush, we navigate the maze and confront the seedy squad. Jafar has attempted to stuff Teana into his fusion pillow, but was caught mid-act. In an act of pure embarrassment, he bolts, leaving Seto adequately pleased that he got the chance to hold a lady's hand for the first time. Shenanigans aside, we face off against Seto3. Like I said before, we need to win this duel first try, otherwise we're back at Mei's face. As an opponent, Seto3 is a fair step up in power from Kepura. His strongest cards are Gate Guardian, Meteor Black Dragon, and Black Skull Dragon, plus a number of 3000 attack monsters. In the spell department, Old Mate has a Raigeki, Crush card, Happy's Feather Duster, Shadow Spell, Swords of Revealing Light, and on top of that, an Acid Trap Hole and a Dianketa the Cure Master just for good measure. Truthfully, I am more worried about his spell cards than his monsters, especially given the trouble that I had with regular Kaiba in the preliminaries. But fortunately for us in this duel, we seem to have drawn a pretty good hand. It's a nice setup. Having at least the Queen of Autumn leaves in the Megamorph, plus the Ritual card as well, is a nice step up from our previous duels. Topping things off even more, I even have the other 2 ritual materials in my hand right now. This is actually looking like we might win first try, but I don't want to get my hopes up. If we do defeat Seto3, he grants us access to the Black Dragon Jungle King, as a single card at least. This is one of the ritual materials needed for Trihorn Dragon. I'll switch things up and use Trihorn Dragon for the remaining mages. I don't think I'll carry him through to the final 6 simply because Dragon Treasure is the only equipped card compatible with it, aside from Bright Castle and Megamorph. With that said, Black Dragon Jungle King is a useful card to have in our deck regardless. A 2100 attack beater is going to be very useful for us. And remember what I said with the rules. Our deck can only consist of ritual material monsters. Doesn't mean I have to have the ritual monster in it. Though it does mean we'll have to kick out Bean Soldier. I'm sorry my Bean boys, it's just the way things go. Getting back to the duel, we are right on time for summoning a Cosmo Queen. In an absolute big brain move, I try and see if I can equip her with a fake trap, before ending my turn and putting things back to my opponent. To combat any Gate Guardians, I'm going to boost her up to 3900 attack instead of going for a Raigeki. Which looks like it paid off because the opponent sets a monster in attack position. That is definitely a beat stick. The AI will often set monsters in face-up attack position if they feel they are sufficiently strong enough. I think it has something to do with ignoring all your stat boosts. But I'm not an expert, so I'll probably have to refer that one to the speedrunners. Get into our last turn, it's about that time for the guessing game. I'm hoping he drops a Black Dragon Jungle King, that'd be sweet. But on that note, it's Raigeki for a win, and we attack for game. We got a Komori Dragon, and guess what? First try, people. Though I guess you probably deduced that from the amount of duels it took me to beat Labyrinth Mage. As mentioned before, it's time to switch things up for the remaining mages. We grind the Black Dragon Jungle King from Seto3 and redeem a Curse of Trihorn Dragon ritual from the Password Trader. Benching our Cosmo Queen for the time being, our deck looks like this. The swap is completely unnecessary, but I'm simply doing it to show off more rituals for this run. Back to the run, and this time we're going to face off against Mega Chin. I usually leave him to last, but I figured since we have a dragon deck, might as well go against the Mountain Mage. Chin Mage's strongest attacking monsters cap at 2600 attack points, unless he fuses into a twin-headed Thunder Dragon, which in that case goes up to 3300. In the spell and trap department, this guy has Stop Defense, Swords of Revealing Light, and ironically, Dragon Capture Jar, which I think is pretty weird. There is a massive power difference in the Trihorn Dragon engine versus the Cosmo Queen engine. Simple reason why I stuck with Cosmo Queen for so long was that I didn't have access to Black Dragon Jungle King, at least as a single card. Had it not been for that, I would have switched to this much earlier. But I might be looking at things through rose-colored glasses, given the perfect run of events we're having with this duel. Why can't every run be as smooth as this? I digress. With a cheeky widespread ruin, we come back to our turn and kick off a Curse of Trihorn Dragon ritual. The seizure procedure was a deep red. Wonder where they got that from. The only red I can see on Trihorn Dragon is on his, chest and tail. Again, I'm convinced they had no idea what they were doing with this mechanic, they just slapped it together and hoped for the best. Oofed, 3 Raigekis, we're spoilt today. It's about that time of the duel again, so we Raigeki for the win, and we attack for game. And we win, a Fungi of the Musk, and I did this first try. That's how great this deck is. Up next is Atenza. Atenza is another failed waifu summoned by Haishin. This time, he was trying to bring forth a wife with distinguishable features. Unfortunately, all that got channeled into that giant chin, and the rest of the request was ignored. Lore aside, Atenza is a fairly beefy opponent. His strongest cards are Meteor Black Dragon, Black Skull Dragon, and Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, all hitting close to 4000 attack thanks to his field spell. In the spell department, speaking of that, he has some devastating counters: Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Duster, Shadow Spell, and Swords of Revealing Light. Thankfully, there's at least no traps in that pile, so we might have a chance. Now that we have a new deck, I think it's time to drop some quick trivia. Our focus this time will be on Torike. There isn't much in the obscure lore department, but this card does make several appearances in the anime, starting as early as episode 1. This was one of the cards that Sagi the Dark Clown kicked the ever-loving crap out of in the Kaiba vs YuGiOh duel. In later episodes, it seems several times in Kaiba's briefcase, each time he whips it out to show off his richness. In later points of the seasons, it appears back on screen each time Kaiba has a flashback. For a card that seems to be fairly frequently referenced and liked, you don't see much of it outside of the first release. Not even a retrain. Oh, this card is also searchable by Dogu, as is literally everything else in this frickin' TCG. Time for a ritual summon. I remember having a copy of Trihorn Dragon at some point in my youth. It was a beautiful secret rare. Shame I was a dumb kid and I didn't take care of anything nice. I also missed the square patterns on those secret rares. Nostalgic as heck. Though I think the Trihorn Dragon secret rare at that time had the diagonal pattern going, not the squares. I don't know, I could be wrong. Mandela effect at its best. At least it got reprinted as a super rare in Legendary Collection 3. Anywho, number 16 I think? We're getting close to our final turn, so it's time to take some guesses as to what card he's going to drop and how many duels this actually took us. No Raigeki for the win this time, we have to rely on trusty Torike. Let's Lajin down and we attack for game. And we win, a blue wing crown, and this took me 2 duels to pull off. Time to go play in some water and face the Ocean Mage. Seaman is a lackluster opponent. His strongest cards cap off at 2600 attack thanks to his field spell, and his only real threat is a Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon fusion. In the spell department, he has a Swords of Revealing Light to slow us down. If you really want to consider a counter, he does have Eternal Drought in his deck, which is technically something he can use against us if we were playing a Fortress Whale Oath deck, or a Crab Turtle deck for that fact. I miss Crab Turtle. It's a shame that 30,000-year-old White Turtle is locked behind Seto3 as a drop, so it's a bit redundant getting that late in the game. With nothing much happening in this duel, let's drop some trivia. This time we'll focus on Black Dragon Jungle King. This card is the stronger, dragon counterpart of Crawling Dragon number 2, which for some reason is a dinosaur. Work that out. The 3D animation for it in this game uses the same model between those two cards as well. At least it did last time I checked. As for anime appearances, this card is also shown in Kaiba's briefcase when he tries to bribe Yugi's grandpa. The only other obscure trivia I got is that this card's Greek text from YuGiOh The Sacred Cards was rewritten for that game and later reverted back. My Greek is crap house, but it basically said «Ένα κατά μαύρος δράκος που κατοικεί σε πύκνες δούκλες. Τα τεράστια του δόντια του επιτρέπουν να κόβει και να καταβροχθίζει δέντρα». Instead of «Ένας κατά μαύρος δράκος που ζει στις βαθύτερες δούκλες και φυσιολογικά καταβροχθίζει δέντρα». Which the key differences in those two frickin' sentences are, is that it makes reference to its large teeth helping it cut down and devour trees. No idea why they bothered to change it in the first place other than to give me a tongue twister. And also, is Greek even a thing in this card game? I've seen some of these card text in the later versions, there is no frickin' way they are fitting on a single card. I feel sorry for whoever had to code those into the video games, jeez. What I don't feel sorry for is me kicking the crap out of this mage. We attack for game, and old mate drops us an obese marmot of nefariousness, which we have several of already. Oh, by the way, I beat this first try. High Mage Secmeton was one of Haishin's greatest failed fusions. He came about when Haishin tried to mix Belle Delphine's bathwater into his summon. Due to crappy eyesight, he accidentally bought her pee, and thus this golden dingus stands before us today as a result. Secmeton's deck is not too spectacular. He only has two monsters that reach 3000 attack, those being Suijin and Crab Turtle. Other than a twin-headed Thunder Dragon fusion, all his other monsters sit under 3000 attack. In the spell department, he has the Raigeki and Harpy's Feather Duster duo. Feather Duster seems to be my main problem with these mages. They do not seem to be that trigger happy with Raigeki. Regardless, we set the stage to be a little bit easier for ourselves by changing his field spell to a mountain. We had a rather spectacular start to the game too. We have all the materials required for Tri-Horn Dragon, as well as the ritual card as well. Safe to say, we should be heading into the home stretch of this duel fairly soon. I don't think there's even time for trivia. I guess I'll mention the Curse of Tri-Horn Dragon ritual instead. This is the card that is only present in YuGiOh Forbidden Memories. It can be created as a fusion by using either Elegant Egotist with a Horn of Light, or Elegant Egotist with a Horn of the Unicorn. I don't get why they used Elegant Egotist. Why couldn't you just fuse Horn of Light with Horn of the Unicorn? Anywho 17, we get to our final turn, we use a Raigeki for the win and attack for game. And we win, a buku, and this took me $1 to finish. First try, as expected. Time for our last shrine. Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives, and boy oh boy, is this mage about to have a terrible one. Lower Desert Mage's deck caps off at 2700 attack power, thanks to the boost from his field spell. In the defense department however, he's got a Labyrinth Wall, which gets powered up to 3500 defense points, and the remainder of his monsters cap off at about 2500. Overall, this shouldn't be a problem for us. But our time with this deck is slowly drawing to a close. I know, big sad. As mentioned before, I will be switching out this deck before the final 6, simply because Tri-Horn Dragon is not compatible with enough equip cards to make it optimal from the endgame. Though I will say, having this build sped through things a lot faster than what we did with Cosmo Queen. For anyone looking to attempt this run with my rule set, I'm certain you'll find multiple ways to make your playthrough quicker and easier. I end up going through these blind, so a lot of the times I'm figuring things out as I go along. I don't even attempt to do a practice run against Seto3 and Freedoor, I'm just winging it. I'm glad thus far that I haven't had to dip into the Pocket Station as well. Though if I ran a tighter rule set, I might have probably had to get Swords of Revealing Light. But hey, individual runs may vary. Returning to the duel, we've just laid another attack on the Desert Mage. We are nearing our final turn, so it's a Raigeki for the win, and we attack for game. We won, a 2-mouth Dark Ruler, and we beat this first try. Trudging up the stairs, we encounter Martis. Haishin was awakened by something he witnessed in the first episode of Billions, and so he added several masks to his fusions to acquire a mistress. Unfortunately, this Mask of Disappointment was summoned instead. Those questioning the logic behind this lore for this mage, don't hurt your brains. Haishin obviously had a Millennium TV and a Millennium subscription to Prime. That's how he was able to watch the pilot. Like that's the most absurd thing in this universe of Magic, seriously? Anywho, number 18. Martis' strongest card in his deck is Zoa at 2600 attack. That doesn't even get boosted by his field spell. The strongest boosted cards in his deck reach 2700 attack, which is pretty pathetic for a high mage. I second my statement to have moved the Labyrinth Mage to the desert. Don't at me. Spell card wise, he has Harpy's Feather Duster to mildly annoy us. Thankfully, no Swords of Revealing Light. I'm having a pretty good time using trap cards in the deck. Not something I normally do, but I made things a heck of a lot easier for this run. I should have spammed Fake Trap a lot earlier than what I did. Oh well, I'll keep that in mind for other decks I'm having problems with. Pulling off the Seizure for this duel, we're a bit sparse on monster cards, so I'm going to boost Trihorn Dragon to the ever-loving shithouse. Don't know how far I'm going to go, but let's just see. Who knows, I might draw a Raigeki or something.
Oh my god, if I have to hear you say the word Raigeki one more time.
Sorry, hun. Don't worry, we beat this guy and you won't have to hear it for a solid 5 minutes. Sadly, it took us 2 tries to beat him, but nonetheless, that's all the mages down, and we're congratulated by Seto. Now for those astute viewers, YuGiOh has goofed. Big time. I forgot to challenge YuGiOh 2 and Teana 2 before attempting the mages. Since I've beaten all 6, I've locked myself into battling both of them, so thankfully I've had a backup save which I've loaded to catch them before the final 6. As per our rules, everyone must be dueled. YuGiOh 2's deck is thankfully weaker than the mages. His strongest card is Red Eyes Black Dragon, and he thankfully does not have access to Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon either, last time I checked at least. In the spell card department, he has nothing, but strangely, he carries a copy of every field spell. Talk about the opposite of Joey in the anime. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he is the ancestor of Jesse Wheeler, and not Joey Wheeler. Sorry, I'm really running with that Jesse Wheeler joke, because I recently saw a reel about it. He's stuck in my head at this point. Such a random thing to throw in the dub. Getting back to the duel with all things aside, it looks like we've reached our final turn. Time for that guessing game, the card, and the amount of times it took me to beat him, though I think it's pretty obvious. Attack for game, and we win, a Kagemusha of the Blue Flame. And we did this in one try, obviously. On to Teana. Teana is the exact reason why I needed to reload to an even earlier save point in this game. YuGiOh will offer to duel you once after having defeated all mages, so long as you didn't interact with him after Seto 2. Teana, however, will not. At least that's what happened in my playthrough, unless I forgot to rebattle someone after reloading. Anywho 18, Teana is an easier opponent than YuGiOh, even easier than some of the people in the preliminaries. Her strongest 3 cards cap off at 1800 attack and 2000 defense. Gai Katana Megami literally has those stats, and is her strongest card. She also has a copy of every field spell, but is also smart enough to have 3 equipped cards as well. The only disruption is the spell card Stop Defense, which she has 1 copy of. Never seen her actually pull it off though. Looking at her drop tables, they only consist of 13 cards, with the exception of her S-Tech table which is at 21. She's a forgettable opponent, but she's the last we'll be using this deck against. So let's appreciate it one more time. Attack the monster, and attack for game. We win a dancing elf, and we did this in one try. Time to revamp our deck for the final 6. Focusing on the Zero engine, we redeem a King of Yami Bakura from the Password Trader, as well as a Zero Ritual. Ignore the star chip count, I'm an idiot and I forgot to record the proper footage. Same goes for the Zero Ritual. All other cards needed for the Zero engine were already available to us in the starting deck, as well as the necessary equip cards. Ignore the Mountain Field spell, it was my error, it should have been a Yami in the deck. Strolling up to the Vast Shrine like I own the place, which as Pharaoh I technically do, Prince Beta opens the door to the Dark Shrine. Now for the remaining 6 duels, I won't be showing you the duel counter after each match, so as not to spoil things. I will do a wrap up at the end of the video on how we progressed. Winter wrap up, let's finish our holiday cheer and kick the crap out of this cosplaying crocodile over here. The next 3 duels from this point on will be on a dark field, which is the key reason why the Zero deck was a better matchup for the final 6. Not only is Zero itself boosted, but so are 2 of the 3 materials needed for its ritual summon. Sebek as an opponent should be an easy win. Attack wise, his go-to card is Metal Zoa at 3000 attack, and from a spell and trap perspective, we only need to contend with Acid Trap Hole, Fake Trap, and Shadow Spell, which I've never really seen him use against me other than Fake Trap. Gearing up for our next turn, it's time to release the beast himself. Kicking off the Zero Ritual, we get a light purple seizure procedure and bring forth the Mant himself. No equip cards needed for this duel, the Dark Field boosts us up to 3300 attack, being more than what's needed to take out his Metal Zoas. Powering up our Ryukushin Powered, which I guess makes his name Ryukushin Powered, or Powered Square, not sure. We use him to tear through the opponent's monsters, leaving him wide open for a direct attack. In true Final 6 fashion, it's a Raigeki for the win, and we attack for game. We want a Zenki. Useless, but who cares? On to Neku. Neku is a slight step up from Sebek. His strongest monster is Skull Knight, which hits for 3,150 attack points. Birdman's deck has a few more hitters that reach 3,000 attack as well, namely being Summon Skull and Dark Magician, so we need to be wary about those as well. Spell and trap wise, he has a stop defense, Swords of Revealing Light, and annoyingly Harpy's Feather Duster. Things to note, Harpy's Feather Duster is going to be an annoying problem for us in these coming duels. It also has a benefit however, in that it slows down the opponent's momentum. Often at times we can bait out a single use of it by setting a card in our spell and trap zone on turn 1. That trick works all the way up to Seto3. Time to talk strategy. Sebek and Neku simply need a heavy beater on the field. We can play normally against these opponents without a solid strategy, just noting that Shadow Spell from Sebek might be a problem. As for Haishin 2, Seto3, Darknite and Nitemare, they comprise of very different decks to each other, so I'll need to come up a plan ahead of time if I reach it that far. Speaking of Operation No Plan, getting our last material on the field, I completely forgot that I didn't have a Zero Ritual set down. So I may have been a bit premature in summoning a Ryukushin without any equip cards. Fortunately, we have a spare Widespread Ruin set to the left to protect us in case anything gets bad. Repeating the same strategy because I didn't draw that great of a hand, I'm going to set a fake trap to protect it again. I'll need to get the Zero Ritual or at least another trap to protect myself. Which I don't. No need to worry, I'm going to put a King of Yami Bakura on the field in defense mode and not power it up. The opponent is going to 100% attack it because its attack rating is stronger than Ryukushin powered. I'm going to dip into that play a few times when we start getting loose on trap cards. But not needed for the remainder of the duel, we draw the needed ritual card, and Zera's back on the field to wreak havoc. In a dumb move, I decide to power up Zera Demand. For some reason I thought that there was something in his deck that could take it out, but there isn't. Neku does not have any equip cards. With all things aside, we get to our final turn. We Raigeki as always, and attack for game. We won, what is it? A Spirit of the Harp. With Neku down, we face off against Daddy Jafar. Haishin is a big beef up from the last two dweebs. On the offense he has Gate Guardian, Meteor Black Dragon, and Black Skull Dragon. Thankfully none of these are boosted by this field. What's going to be a worry for me for this tour and the successive are the back row cards like Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Duster, and Widespread Ruin. My strategy will be to set a strong monster and let Haishin stock up his field. This way I can screen the attack power of all his cards. Anything over 3000 attack he will leave in attack position. This makes it easier to protect my ritual materials. As he starts building a back row, I'll periodically sacrifice some of my monsters to trigger his Widespread Ruins. What I cannot do however is go all out too quickly. If I wipe out his field with a Raigeki and have too dominating of a presence, it increases the chance that Haishin will use a Raigeki against me. The AI tends to do that when it notices it's at a drastic disadvantage, though I don't know the full exact rule set for it. What I screwed up with getting into these final sixes was to set myself up with a Harpy's Feather Duster. I realised that a bit too late. I don't know why I didn't go back and get it, but nonetheless I went through this entire gauntlet without one. Speaking of AI behaviour, the AI tends to do some funny things when you leave out their starting monster. Now don't quote me on this because I don't know the exact mechanic, but if you leave the starting monster alive on the field, the AI opponent will not use any equip cards. That's at least the behaviour I observe when playing this run. As for screening what the cards are, if it's in defense position and it's a moon, it is definitely a Wall Shadow. If it's in defense position and it's a Uranus, it's definitely a Labyrinth Wall. If it's in defense position and it's a Jupiter, it's a Millennium Shield, though I don't think any of them have one of those. Attack wise, all of you know, if it's a moon and it's in attack mode, it's either going to be a Black Skull Dragon or a Gate Guardian. If it's a Mars, it's definitely a Meteor Black Dragon, and the Suns are either going to be Blue Eyes White Dragon or Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Having sufficiently decimated his field, I take the gamble and bring forth Zero Demand. I have at least one Megamorph to protect myself from a Gate Guardian, and I'll start laying waste to his life points. For the sheer fact that he didn't retaliate with a Raigeki, I think we have this duel in the bag. I make a minor misplay. I could have beasted up King of Yami Bakura with those two equip cards and suicided against Meteor Black Dragon. But it doesn't matter. We Raigeki and take out Haishin for the final time. We get a Stone Ghost. Speaking of Stone Ghosts, Haishin gives us a look of fear and scurries away, dropping his pillow. Seto reclaims the Millennium Waifu material and escorts us to the big chest in the sky. Ignoring the source in the sky, Seto takes us to the Golden Wall and reveals it to be a Millennium Kitchen, the key missing ingredient for the waifu fusion summon. Not approving of these stereotypes in front of us, we channel our inner feminism and take on Seto3. Seto3, the hardest duel in the game by far. As you already know, Seto's strongest cards are Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, Gate Guardian, Meteor Black Dragon, and Black Skull Dragon. Equally devastating are his spell cards and trap cards. He boasts a Raigeki, a Harpy's Feather Duster, a Widespread Ruin, and a Shadow Spell. Before I get into the final mechanics, I am thankful as hell that his first card is just a regular Blue Eyes White Dragon. This means that we got a good cycle against him where he didn't select the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon as part of his deck construction. Getting back to his spell and trap cards, there is a 5.86% chance that any of those cards will be in his deck selection. An additional problem we're going to face is his field removal. Given that his top 5 monsters are over 3000 attack, Seto will never put them in defense mode, making it that much harder for us to screen monsters that are on the field and clear away his heavy beaters. Let's talk strategy. We'll be following a similar method to Haishin. What was really fortunate for us was that we top decked that Yami. It's going to make things a heck of a lot easier for us. Seto3 is very trigger happy with his disruption cards. To have enough resources to hit over his strong monsters, we're going to need to set a few equip cards in advance. Unfortunately, Seto likes to use Feather Duster. A lot. So we're going to need to exhaust all 3 of them. As you saw in the start of the duel, we managed to bait out one of them by setting a basic spell card. So that's step 1, clearing his dusters. Step 2 will be to bait out his strong monsters and have them hit into our trap cards. Sound convoluted? Because it freaking is. None of those things seem to have happened this duel. We happen to get a really good cycle with Seto. Otherwise, my next suggestion was going to be to start baiting out his widespread ruins by attacking him with weak monsters. I don't know what happened, Seto seems to have pulled a horrible deck. We attacked directly and I am taking this win. I don't care. I'm mentally over-prepared for nothing on this one. With Seto's defeat, Haishin flashes his Millennium Persuasion device and convinces us to hand him the rest of the items. Putting everything together, he attempts another fusion. And it failed. His tanned, heavy-chested waifu summon has resulted in a failure, and this hairy beefcake stands before us instead. The disappointment is real. This Goliath throws Haishin into a ritualistic fire and turns his sights on us. We flash him our 2D waifu cards, quelling the beast's rage. He understands now that in modern times, people simp over 2D cards and not 3D people. Still adequately thirsty, he challenges us to a duel, as we're looking very much like a snack. Story aside, time for some analysis. Darknite on paper looks like a rather simple duel after overcoming a challenge like Seto. His strongest cards are Meteor Black Dragon and Black Skull Dragon. To us ritual players, this challenge comes from the spell and trap cards at his disposal. Darknite has access to Raigeki, Crush Card, Widespread Ruin, Shadow Spell, Reverse Trap, Swords of Revealing Light. And to top things off, he also keeps a Megamorph in his deck, making it entirely possible to boost the card over 4000 attack. He is the key opponent that I needed the Feather Duster for. Attrition is not a wise strategy against this guy, but unfortunately it is the only way forward, as his field has far too many back rows for us to deal with. His cards are relatively weaker than ours, so we don't need to worry too much about baiting out a Feather Duster. Our key focus instead is on dropping powerhouses on the field and setting up our back row to steamroll him. Like I mentioned before, if we put him on the back foot too quickly, he will pull out Crush Card on us. What I will be attempting to do is bait out his Reverse Trap. He doesn't always have it in his deck, but it will make things troublesome if he pulls it out the minute we summon Zera. What I'll also be doing, as you can see on screen, is sacrificing my monsters to trip out his Widespread Ruins as well. Since he has so many, it's very hard to tell when he puts a Widespread Ruin on the field. Hence why I just attacked into his Dragon Champion. The saving grace out of all this doom and gloom is that Acid Trap Hole is a viable trap card against this guy, as the bulk of his monsters are weaker than 3000 attack. I decide to take the gamble and pull out Zera. Based on his preference to summon cards under 3000 attack, I think he's run out of beat sticks. I still rely on the Acid Trap Hole back row just in case he gets something boosted by Mountain. Looks like I was right, he ended up attacking into me with Red Eyes Black Dragon. Given that I know what his back row is, I'm going to set a Widespread Ruin and get him as low down as I can on his life points. And look at that, he fell for it again. It's time for the final turn of this duel. We attack directly with Zero Demand and Darknite goes down. We want an illusionist faceless mage. Speaking of faceless mages, it's time for the nightmare to begin. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm thankful to be facing Nightmare. Though Nightmare is a powerhouse of an opponent with a powerhouse of a deck, he has 0 spell and trap cards. Our goal is to summon a beat stick stronger than his Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. That's it. Then we simply take our time cycling through the deck to power up our monsters. What I need to be abundantly cautious of is the amount of cards I churn through, especially with the starting hand I just drew. A deck out is highly likely to happen if I don't play smart. In hindsight again, I should have swapped out Acid Trap Hole for more equip cards so I had more resources available to me. Oh well, it's something you guys can correct when you attempt this run. What I'm really thankful and pleased about is the lack of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragons in this gauntlet, for the sheer fact that Seto3 and Nitemare both haven't pulled one out on me means that RNG is finally smiling on me. I think the game at this point feels sorry for me. Oh, but don't worry, you'll see the total duel counter at the end of this. I think I deserve a break after that. At this point in the duel, we're letting Nitemare load up his field switch and grind for resources. I will drop the final trivia, and that is on our MVP, Zero Demont. This card is one of the few early TCG monsters that did not have its card password in the bottom corner. As for the card art itself, Zero Demont is one of 4 paths the Warrior of Zero takes on his journey. Falling into the allure of evil and doing the Zero ritual, he becomes Zero Demont. Both the sword and the throne resemble the fiend creature represented on this card. The other paths that the Zero Warrior can take will turn him into Archlord Zerato, Mazera Deville, and Algud Mazera, which I think is pretty freaking cool. I guess by extension it means that Dark Lord Zerato is another path he can take. Looking further into his backstory, according to the card storyline about Mazera Deville performed this ritual to turn into Zero Demont. Take all that lore as you will. The Zero ritual came out before the entire Zero archetype was a thing, so my interpretation could be a bit flawed based on what I've searched up on the web. And would you look at that, Nightmare's even summoning out his own ritual monsters. Seriously. It's such a slap in the face for what we have to go through to get even a single thing out. But a Raigeki to the field is the best counter to a slap in the face, and boy did that feel good. Time to get out the warrior itself and put an end to this guy's life points. Now I was sure to set it to a Saturn archetype in case there was a cheeky blue eye summon. Just to back myself up even more, I'm going to give it more equip cards. Oh, would you look at that? Here's another Raigeki. Attack, and we are 1 hit away from defeating this guy. Oof, look at those Megamorphs. Yep, give them both to 0. Now I'm going to do a 3D duel for this last attack. I'm going to keep quiet, you guys just watch. Michael baying the hell out of his Dark Magician, we skip to our next turn. Powering up our king of Yami Bakura, this is just what we need to take out his last card. Attacking for game, and we win. Catapult Turtle who gives a crap. We have successfully defeated Nitemare and claim our place on this throne, which took 12 attempts by the way. So can you beat YuGiOh Forbidden Memories using a ritual only deck? Yes, if you follow my rules. I welcome everyone else's attempt at this and I'll joyfully watch it. With that said, here's the run wrap up. 152 duels, 60 losses, 132 free duels, 284 duels in total, an 8-minute duel average, and a 37.8 hour campaign duration. As for the deck ranking, no surprise to anyone, this was the worst deck I've had to deal with, so down to the ritual tier you go. Hi everyone, YuGiOh here. Wow, this was an absolute punish of a video. Before I sign off, I just want to give a shout out to some special YouTubers. Austin Beck 2465, Atenza, Adler Rapturian 7472, The Rags 08, Chrism 7706, and Delta Sith. Massive shout out to you all for showing some extra support to me in the channel. I don't ever expect a super thanks when I'm making my videos, so I'm truly touched and appreciative of your support. I just love making content for you all to enjoy. Anywho, number 19, I am keen to see which of you are game enough and sadistic enough to try this challenge. I'll be waiting. This video took a lot longer than anticipated due to life events, so be sure you hit that bell icon to be the first to be notified of my next run. While you're at it, click that subscribe button, you know you want to. Regarding the next run, comment below on what you'd like to see next. I read each and every comment down there, so type away, and I'll respond to you when I get the chance. That brings us to the end of the video. As always people, stay awesome. I hope you all draw a Raigeki for the win, and I'll be seeing you all soon.